We are back in the forest for a video that I honestly wish I never had to make. To be clear, this is not a continuation of my series as a playthrough. This is simply a video explaining why I stopped my playthrough and why I'm probably never going to play this game again past this point. In the background, I'll be doing some of the most redundant stuff that you can do in Sons of the Forest, which is building. All the while, I'll honestly give my transparent and honest criticism about this game that I've been holding out on for quite a while now. I'd like to state that I played this game during its first release, and I had my fair share of doubts. I thought it was very janky, bizarre, and just didn't add a whole lot of actual gameplay. Of course, I couldn't judge the game as that, because I knew that it was an unfinished product, and I knew that sooner or later the game will actually be polished and it will make more sense in the end when full release comes out. So I stopped playing for a while. I came back a little bit later when more stuff got added, but got burnt out pretty quickly once again. I started this playthrough that's on my YouTube channel for the first time on 1.0. At this point, I expected a fully polished game. I expected a lot of new features that the first game didn't have, and I expected to have at least half an enjoyable experience. And for the most part, this was true. There's a lot of interesting things that I've experienced in this game since its release, since I've started playing the full version of it. I'm glad to say that they're documented on my YouTube, and it's been an interesting ride for a while. Eventually, it did burn me out, and I will explain how all of that happened in a second. Some of you who may have watched my playthrough, all my videos, can maybe tell that in the last video, or perhaps even the last two videos, I may seem a little bit jaded with the game already. That's because I started seeing a lot of the things that I disliked about this game when I played it in early access. I didn't see any progress made in some fields that I was really hoping the game would progress on. In the very first episode, I noted my criticisms about the early access version that I played, and how I hoped the game would expand upon them and, improve. A lot of those did get better. A lot of those didn't. I'll just cut right to the chase, and I'll get to why I think this game is incredibly disappointing. One of the first things that jaded me is the survival aspects of this game, or rather the lack thereof. It's supposed to be a survival game, beyond everything. It's supposed to be a survival game and a horror game in one. Though there are plenty good horror aspects of this game, I can't say the same about survival. There are, of course, a lot of mechanics when it comes to the survival in this game. There's hunting, there's fishing, there's traps, there's even little farms you can make, little hutches for rabbits that you can potentially breed and keep. There is also things such as farming. But as I'm judging this game, like I judge every new game that comes out, in its most basic recommended difficulty, aka usually it's the normal difficulty, which is what I've been playing on. All of those things are completely not worth your time, because the game gives you an abundance of resources wherever you go. Whether or not you find an abandoned camp, a cannibal camp, graves you can dig up, or just crates all over the place, or abandoned cabins and stuff like that, the game is going to spoil you with food, water, medicine, all the different types of necessities for survival, to the point where you never need to hunt in this game. You never need to farm in this game. You never need to craft medicine in this game by picking the right flowers and mixing them up. You never need to do that because you're spoiled with resources. And at the end of the day, even if your hunger bar and your thirst bar go down all the way, you don't start taking damage on normal difficulty. You simply lose a little bit of stamina, which is kind of disappointing. I understand that you can increase the difficulty and you can customize the settings of your game, but I'm disappointed that the bare bones recommended experience for this game, the one that most people are going to be playing on for the first time, just completely ignores the aspect of survival because it's simply not necessary. I see a lot of YouTubers playing this game and breezing through it, not even glancing over at their UI on the bottom right side, because they simply don't need to worry about those bars running out. The next point that I want to bring up is the building in this game. I think, like, even more so than the survival aspect and the lack of existence of a need to hunt or to scavenge resources or to make traps or to farm in this game are completely, you know, redundant and not necessary. Building is even less of a necessity. In fact, it is nothing but a waste of time. Sure, if you're into building in video games, it can be nice. You just sit down and, you know, build, but it's pointless. It's entirely pointless. There's no reason for you to build anything in this game. The only reason you would ever build anything is to have like a bed so you can like save your progress and sleep through the night, which is completely overshadowed by the fact that you can simply put down a piece of tarp, like so, and then a singular stick like this, and then there you go. You can save the game and you can sleep like that, and then that's all the base building you'll ever need to do. And then you can disassemble this and take it with you wherever you need to go. We also spoke about how you don't need to farm or keep any animals because the game just gives you all the resources you ever need. There's also the argument to be made for storage, as you can only carry so many items at a time. So you might be inclined to build some shelves or something along those lines to store your resources, like your arrows, your bones, your bombs and medicine and stuff like that. But again, you're not going to be using so many of those to the point where you're gonna have storage. By the time you go back and store those, you're already gonna run across a field of crates or airplane briefcases that are just going to refill your inventory immediately again. Unless you really like building for some reason, and this game's building mechanics, they can be fun. They're not exactly that thrilling if you keep doing them over, like, I don't know, 15 minutes of your time. It can only be so fun to chop down trees and just place down logs over and over and over. Another point that kind of ties into this one is that you never need to really worry about cannibal attacks or mutant attacks, because you don't need to build in this game. And if you don't build in this game, you're never going to be attacked, which sounds like, okay, maybe you're not doing anything like the way the game intends you to play the game. But I'll make an argument about this a little bit later in the video, that the game, the way the people that made this game want you to play it is very, very fucking weird. But tying into that point, the fact that they've spent a lot of time in this game working on the cannibal AI and the different interactions you can have, like, with the cannibals. There are a lot of ways you can interact with them. You know, sometimes they're going to be passive, sometimes they're going to be aggressive towards you. There's some cannibals that are more hostile, others that are more scared of you, and something like that. There's the scavengers, which don't directly fight anything, and they just go for carcasses you leave behind, or even cannibal corpses that you leave behind for them to consume. There's different behaviors and different interactions between different cannibal types and different tribes of cannibals. All these things have been worked on, and if I'm being honest, they're pretty cool. Most of the time, you're never really going to notice them unless you go out of your way to do so, and like to go to like a cannibal camp and just simply observe it. The game doesn't really give you a reason to go out of your way to interact with cannibals whatsoever, apart from, you know, maybe if you don't know how to fight very well, just stay out of their way, right? But then you just miss out on their existence to begin with. A lot of things that are made to make the game more convenient for you, such as the little one-wheel scooter thing and the golf carts that you can drive around, they're made so you can traverse the island, which is pretty big, so you can get from point A to point B faster. But they also really help in missing out on things. I played through my whole playthrough with, I mean, using those, obviously, because you need to go from cave A to cave B to cave C all the time. And if you walk, it's gonna take you hours because the island is huge. But if you use the little vehicles that the game gives you, you're going to miss out on all the cool cannibal AI and stuff like that. And on top of that, you're also going to miss out on things such as Virginia, who is supposed to be a character that you can interact with from like the early stages of the game, and then she becomes a companion eventually. I've completely missed her because I've just been playing the game, using the resources it provides me to get from point A to point B faster. I've completely missed her. I have maybe seen her once or twice max, and it was while I was zooming around on the little scooter. And I have to be honest, a lot of the criticisms that I have potentially come from the fact that I have played the game, or I have at least tried the game once or twice before its full release. So that's why I'm kind of maybe, well, not really rushing through it, but at least trying to get to the main meat of the game, like towards the ending, and explore all the new story stuff, rather than taking my time and exploring cannibal camps and stuff like that. But again, at the same time, I have a lot of friends who've played this game, and I see a lot of people who play it, like YouTubers and stuff like that, and the things that I criticize the game for, I can also see in their playthrough. Like, how often is it that your favorite YouTuber or streamer plays this game, they see like a hoverboard or a golf cart, and they're excited at the goofiness of the existence of that, and they just zoom around everywhere, running over the cannibals, running over everything that is in their way, and just messing around instead of taking the game seriously. And the reason they do that is because the game very easily gives you reasons to not take it seriously. It's an incredibly goofy game, and I can even go so far as to say that it's an incredibly memey game at that. It feels a little sad to say. I honestly feel sad to say, because I wish this was... I think I said this at the beginning of my first video. I wish this was the survival game that I was gonna stick with and like and want to play through multiple times. But the experience for me has just been incredibly soured. There's so many features in this game that you will just never really see fully. One of the first big problems I had with the early access in the game was the fact that the game gave you no direction towards what you actually need to do and how you need to play it. Which, in some survival games, I like that a lot, right? It's very good to have games not hold you by the hand and make you tailor your own experience and go your own way to do things. But in a game like this, however, I don't think that worked, because in the Sons of the Forest, the main story and the main progression is going from cave to cave, grabbing certain important items that let you unlock something in another cave. The problem with that and the lack of handholding means that you now have like 15 caves throughout the island, including like bunkers and stuff like that, that require specific items that are in other caves for you to have in the first place in order to progress through them. The fact that it doesn't give you a pointer, like where to start, can give players a lot of... I don't know how to explain it. It can confuse players. Because the first time I played through this game, I went in a cave and I was like, oh fuck, I need a rope gun for this cave. Where the fuck do I find that? I don't have any, like, pointers for that. And then I go to a different cave and I'm like, oh fuck, I need the rebreather for this cave. Where the fuck do I find that? I go to a third cave and I was like, oh shit, I need a key card here. Where the fuck do I find that? Again, it's not that big a deal if you had some sort of pointers. At the beginning of this game, the full release, the way it is right now, you have these, and these were there in the early access as well. There's 3 little icons on your map and 3 caves on the map, right? This indicates that you can kind of go there and be like, yeah, these are my objectives. This is what I need to do, right? Those caves are not special. Those caves are not there because those are the first caves that you need to go in. Those caves are appearing on your map right now because you are close enough to them and they can appear on your map. So if you go on the other side of the island, as we can see now, 3 more caves just showed up. So it just simply shows you where all the caves are, doesn't show you the first caves that you need to go into. And I know for a fact that if I go to that cave on the north of me, I won't be able to progress because I need the rope gun for it. Maybe the rope gun is in that other cave over there at the top where the end symbol is, right? The north symbol. But in order to get the rope gun there, I might need the rebreather, which is in this cave here at the beach. I know that because I've played through this like 3 times. Nobody else who's going to play it for the first time knows this. A lot of people that I've seen play the game end up going to an online interactive map to show them where all the progression items are. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get stuck and you're going to wander from cave to cave, and every cave you go to, you'll be like, fuck, I need this item to progress in it. You'll go to another cave hoping to find that item, and you'll be like, oh shit, it's a second item that I need to progress that I don't have and I don't know where to find. And these 3 little symbols, the purple ones, they're nothing. One of them is a flashlight, another one is a shotgun, third one over there in the water is a pistol. That's all they are. I mean, you have a little mini objective to find the rest of your team, Team B or whatever, right? Which fulfilling that does nothing for you, by the way. It's nothing. It just gives you nothing. There's no progression, there's no fanfare, nothing. It's just items that you might need. Like the flashlight is useful, I guess guns are useful, that's fine. But you would think the game is pointing to you to go and find these things because they're essential to your survival, or they at least start your progression in the game. And maybe you'll find some things to progress in the other caves through those things because they're immediately marked on your map and they're immediately unique markers. But no, they're completely optional things that you never need to go to. And for one of them, you can't even actually dig up because you don't have the shovel. So, again, really annoyed at that. Because I know for a fact I'm not the only one that spent hours of my time going from one end of the stupid island to another, trying to just figure out which cave I'm supposed to go in first, because I can't progress in the other caves, because that first cave has an essential item that I need to progress in the other ones in. And it's really fucking annoying. And no amount of fucking golf carts or stupid hoverboards or whatever the fuck it's gonna give you is gonna make up for the fact that you need to go around the island multiple times trying to figure shit out up until the point where you give up and you just Google it. That to me is just unfinished game design. Some games do it in a cool way where you can notice where you need to progress and how you need to progress. This game is just luck. Wherever you spawn and whatever choices you make for the first time, especially if you're playing the game for the first time, the initial choices you make, which for most people is going to be find a location to set up camp. Because when people play this game for the first time, they're going to think that they actually need to build and make a shelter for themselves. They think that that's going to be useful for them. Which, obviously, I know that it's not going to be useful because you can play through the whole game without ever building, and it's not going to hinder your gameplay at all. In fact, it's going to make things easier for you to never waste your time picking up logs and putting them down. And once people do that, they're probably going to explore the caves that are closest to them. So, depending on whichever location they think is good to build in, their experience is going to be tailored on whether the fact those caves are just generous enough and they've been lucky enough to build next to the caves that actually have items for progression in them. Which is just stupid. It's just such a stupid experience for you to have. It's not enjoyable at all. Also, while we're talking about this, I'm going to talk about some of the weapon designs here. I made a fuss about this. Never mind, I can no longer aim with the crossbow. That is stupid as fuck. Horrible fucking design. You can one-hand the crossbow anyway, so why the fuck do you need that thing that impedes your fucking aim? God, it's so stupid. So, do they play the game after they fucking make these things? Do they try it out? Do they put that thing... I don't understand. Because somebody programmed that, somebody modeled that, somebody put that in the game. And then I'm assuming they also tried it out and tested it. And they came to the conclusion that, yeah, that's good. That's good design. People will definitely want to put the flashlight on the thing. It's so stupid. You can attach flashlights and laser sights on the crossbow. Because obviously when you're in the caves, you're constantly going to have light, right? And then you're going to attach a flashlight to your crossbow. And you're going to think, ah, yes, this is going to be really cool. Now I can see with the crossbow in the caves and I can effectively use it because it's a really good weapon. And then you're gonna aim down your sights, and then most of it is gonna be completely impeded because the flashlight goes for some reason on top of your crossbow. And when your character is moving around and the breathing animation happens, that little gap that you have over there to see through, which would be enough in an IRL situation to an extent, in this game it just isn't the fucking case, because weapons in this game do not accurately shoot where the iron sights are. And on top of that, that little tiny gap is not good enough in a cave, not even with the flashlight that it provides, the actual light itself. It's not good enough to actually be able to see anything in front of you. So it's a completely wasted attachment that you think is going to like change your gameplay, and instead you're gonna want to take it off immediately because it makes it harder for you to fucking use the crossbow. Another really fucking stupid design choice when it comes to the weapons is a shotgun. Take a look at this. So you can shoot the shotgun and then it racks it. And then it does that. So when it does that, and it's like in my experience, it's a 50% chance for your character to do the one-handed reload animation. You can see how often I'm getting it here. If you try to spam your shotgun, if you're fighting like a mutant or something really dangerous and you want to be shoot as quickly as possible, you know, you try to spam it, that happens, and the reload animation, or like the cocking animation for that, is actually way slower than the normal animation. Look at how stupid this is. Like, imagine, I don't understand. Like, sure, I guess in some movies it's cool to make a fucking character do a one-handed reload, right? But this is what you need in a game, not this. It's so dumb. You're trying to like really quickly fight, and then your character for some reason is gonna do a one-handed animation that takes a longer time than the normal animation. It pisses me off. It really pisses me off because it's stupid. It's stupid. There's a lot of design choices like that make no fucking sense, but the game developers were like, yeah, that looks cool, so let's actually keep that in the game. People are gonna love that, I swear. My biggest point that I want to make with this is that, in my opinion, Sons of the Forest and The Forest are essentially the same game when you really think about it. When you really compare them, they're the same game. A lot of you might be thinking, well, yeah, obviously it's the same series of games, right? So of course they're going to be incredibly similar, right? But I mean that in a more literal sense. How many features are there in Sons of the Forest that are additions to the game series comparatively to what the Forest gave us? What exactly is new in Sons of the Forest that we haven't already seen in the first game? Some of the building is new. I get that. There's more modular building. You can build things more bit by bit, and you can it's more customized, right? And that makes it more interesting, right? But to me, that's like nothing. If this game came out in 2016 or some shit like that, then placing individual logs and being able to modify them would have been incredibly impressive, right? Same thing as in the forest. We're doing this, aka cutting down trees and seeing them chip away bit by bit. That was impressive, but that was impressive back then. Nowadays, you would play this game and you'd be like, yeah, of course that happens. And why wouldn't that happen? Like, it's not impressive. We're in 2024. A lot of these features are, I mean, you would expect a game like this to have these features. It would be a standard. The more obvious new addition that this game has provided to us is the companion system, which by itself I think is completely meh, you know? Like, Kelvin can be useful sometimes, like, you know, getting you food, I guess, helping you maintain the base, I guess. But as we've already established, having a base and scavenging for food supplies is actually not a mechanic in this game that you need to use because of how often you find food and stuff like that. So Kelvin is incredibly redundant. You need to use him. Is just you don't need him. Like, you don't need him. You're like, I guess it's cool that the game has him there, but there is no purpose for the game having him there. Same with Virginia. I mean, she's incredibly missable at that, you know? Like, you can play your whole playthrough and never even fucking see her or interact with her. And a lot of people at the first playthrough are not even gonna know how to interact with her, right? They're gonna see a mutilated woman, which everybody knows in the Forest games, mutants are the bad guys. So they'd either like scare her off or shoot her or something like that. So again, it may be a new feature, but it's a very redundant feature. It's a very unnecessary feature that you just never need to play with, and most people aren't gonna play with, apart from, you know, farming some fucking funny clips on for YouTube. Just in general, thinking about it, it's very difficult for me to isolate things that Sons of the Forest has that the first game didn't have. I really can't think of anything. Maybe like the little vehicles, which are there in order for you to traverse the island faster, but therein lies another problem about the island of the forest. They've upped the scale from the first game by a lot. This island is much larger than the original game's island, but it's like 90%, I would even go far as to say 95% of it is very empty. There's nothing in it. There's nothing for you to explore. The game looks beautiful and the island itself looks beautiful, which by itself is cool, but like, you look at it a little bit, 15 to 30 minutes max, you're gonna explore, look around, then you're gonna find yourself wondering what you're actually looking for. There's no landmarks for you to orient yourself with. Like, it sounds stupid to say, right? Because it obviously, rooted in reality, this wouldn't be a stupid sentence to say, but in a video game sense, I think it is kind of a stupid sentence to say. The island is only full of rivers, little ponds, trees, and that's it. That's 90% of it. There's no actual gameplay in it. There's some cannibals you can fight here and there, but after you clear out like a singular cannibal camp, then you're completely done forever for doing that. All of the gameplay, all of the story, all of the progression in this game happens in the caves, which, to be entirely fair, is the same thing that happened in the first game. And I had this comment about it in my first video where I said that these games need to be called something like the caves instead of the forest, because absolutely fuck all actually happens in the forest. Like, you can completely remove the entirety of the surface of this island, all the things that you can do on the surface of the island. You can remove your companions, you can remove base building, you can remove all the exploration, all the vehicles, which are the only new features in Sons of the Forest that don't exist in the forest, by the way. You can remove all those features, and the game will essentially be 95% still intact, gameplay and progression wise and story wise, because all those important things, the key details, happen in a handful of caves that are dotted around this giant, pointless, empty, barren island, which to me is fucking bizarre. It's bizarre because I see that and I immediately think that the game developers just had no idea what they were doing. In my mind, they thought that building an island this big and this beautiful will by itself sell millions of copies in the game. And to be fair, the game sold out really well. But that was because everybody loved the first game so much. That wasn't because this game showed any promise. And they've spent so much time thinking that, yes, people in 2023 will be impressed at being able to gradually chop down logs or place down wood in a base bit by bit, or have like a three-legged chick that is only wearing a swimsuit as a companion. Yes, that's what people want in 2023. That's game-breaking design, you know? That's what we need of a survival game. Because like the Sons of the Forest had the best potential to be the best survival game in this decade. Because the Forest itself actually pushed the boundary of what survival games were up until that point. It innovated on a lot of things. It had features that a lot of games didn't have. This game has the same features and barely changes them. Barely fucking changes them. It doesn't do anything new. And I'm so pissed at that. I had high expectations of this game. I had really high expectations of this game. And eventually I got disappointed, as I'm sure a lot of other people did, as I know a lot of other people did, because for the longest time after its full release, I didn't actually want to play this game because of how much all the people that I know that have played it were telling me that it was bad. But I still gave it a shot. I wanted to see for myself. Just think about it, I suppose. It's hard for me to explain this point, and I think you guys can understand what I mean if you just really think about it and try to compare what The Forest has as gameplay features to what Sons of the Forest has as gameplay features. And when you think of things such as the companion system, or the vehicle system, or the base building system, think about the fact that 95% of the actual gameplay of this game is essentially in the cave systems, which have remained unchanged since the first game. And if you remove the new features that this game has, like, just in general, this game is still the same thing. There's nothing new about it. It's such a big gripe that I have with this game, the fact that this island is so beautiful. It's so huge, yet there's nothing to do on it. Like, a lot of people that I see that are obsessed with this game, also obviously obsessed with the first game, and all the videos that they make, all the fun that they have with this game is simply them making it up. They make up their own fun, you know? They find excitement in the littlest of things because they're diehard fans of this franchise. And from an outsider's perspective, it looks like, I'm gonna sound mean, but it looks like they're deluding themselves and forcing themselves to like this game and just finding reasons to enjoy it when there aren't any. You know, they're finding gameplay where there isn't any. They're finding enjoyment in things that just don't really exist in this game. I'm gonna move on and talk a little bit about the overall story of this game. There's two main ways that the story is conveyed in this game. You're gonna find these notes, like little printed out email conversations between a lot of the characters in the game, a lot of the lore-specific characters. There is a singular email that explains that the Puffton guy, for some reason, decided to tell everybody to use printed out conversations to communicate with each other, which is obviously just a cheap way of explaining why you find all these email conversations lying about that are just exposition for the story. It's cheap, it's dumb, it's whatever. I don't expect anything too much out of an indie company, even though with the success that they had with the first fucking game, you would think that they would be more polished and things would be more thought out, right? But whatever. So those are weird to the point where even conversations that are supposed to be secret, like between people and that assassin lady or whatever the fuck she is, even those things will be printed out. It doesn't obviously make any logical sense why they would be. So the note system is, I mean, it's stupid. Let's be entirely honest, it's stupid. Another way that the story is being conveyed is obviously the cutscenes, which I've seen a couple of them. Well, to be fair, I've seen most of them. A couple of them are obviously in my videos. They're very janky. They're unpolished, and most of the time you're gonna be confused when you see them. You're gonna not actually understand what the fuck is actually happening to a degree. Out of nowhere, like, Timmy shows up from the first game, and I think then out of nowhere his dad shows up and then gets shot immediately, which is like the character that you played in the first game. At least I'm pretty sure that's what happens. I could be wrong. Again, they're just incredibly janky. I don't quite understand them. They're just incredibly low effort. That's the best way to say it. It's incredibly low effort. The last point I'm going to make in this game, which is frankly something that I wish I never needed to talk about, is the ridiculous overuse of gore in this game. In a way you would think, okay, it's a survival horror game, there's a lot of scary aspects, there's been human mutations and experiments happening and a lot of death and stuff like that. It makes sense for there to be gore, right? It does. You're not wrong. It does. It makes a lot of sense. But when you start playing the game, initially you're gonna see a couple bodies like these, right? And you're gonna be like, oh, that's fucking gross, that's disgusting, that's scary, you know, what the fuck happened? Then you're gonna move on and you're gonna see more bodies. Then you're gonna move on and you're gonna see even more bodies. Then you're gonna move on and even see more bodies. And then you'll eventually end up in a cave that has about 400 skulls in a singular segment of it. Then you're gonna move on and it's gonna have another 50 dead corpses further down the line. And you're gonna start wondering, where the fuck did all these bodies actually come from? How does this make sense, right? There was an army of dead people in the first game, and there's an army of dead people in the second game. It keeps going. It just keeps going. On top of that, at the beginning of the game, you have this survival book that basically gives you blueprints and ways to make things, right? And then when you explore it and flip through the pages, you're eventually gonna come to a page that has things like this. A chair made out of bones and skulls. A chandelier made out of bones and skulls. And you're like, why the fuck do I have this at the beginning of the game in a survival book that is made by normal people out in the world, right? Ceiling skull lamp, because of course. Why not, right? You're gonna start to wonder why these things are in your survival book to begin with. And then if you switch the mode, it teaches you stuff like putting stuff down on top of sticks. But to do that, it teaches you how to do that with skulls for some reason. Why would you want to do this? Why is this in your survival book? After you're done exploring that, sooner or later, you're going to end up with things such as skin pouches in your inventory, because the cannibals drop these things. I'm not gonna explain the ridiculousness of primitive cannibals having Ziplocs, essentially, to lock their skin pouches with. I'm not even gonna get into that. But my point is, the game forces you to have something like this in your inventory sooner or later. It's either gonna be a skin pouch, skulls, bones, human body parts, or creepy armor. The game, sooner or later, will force you to use these items. And by use these items, I mean skin pouches give you useful supplies and you can actually use them. So even though as a sane person, you wouldn't necessarily pick any of these things up, let alone carry more of them in your fucking backpack, right? Or as a sane person, you wouldn't see a mutant, and then when you kill it, you're not actually gonna skin it because for some reason you would believe that its skin is going to provide armor for yourself. Because what fucking sane individual would think that? Then on top of that, no sane individual is also going to think, if I kill a couple cannibals and then toss them on a fire and then extract their bones, I can make good bone armor with them. Who would fucking do that? Why does the game believe that you want to do this? Why does the game force you to do this? And trust me, it does force you to do this. And I'll explain to you why. Making bone armor or collecting skin creepy armor from cannibals and mutants is much easier than actually hunting down animals, because they're a nuisance and it's incredibly tedious to hunt down animals, and it takes incredibly long to gather enough animal hide to make. You can only have so much animal hide and so much hide armor on you as well. It's so tedious to get armor like that instead of just killing a couple cannibals, burning them, or killing a couple mutants and burning them, because you will go in the caves and you'll eventually end up killing a lot of mutants. And that's free armor. You don't even need to craft this with anything. You just have it and you put it on. And stuff like the tech armor, which armor-wise is probably one of the better armors in the game, it gets destroyed as quickly as any other armor, and it's ridiculously expensive to make. It relies on you finding printer resin, which is, I don't know, it's like, it's luck if you find it, right? It's annoying. It's really annoying. The game forces you to play it in the goriest, weirdest way possible. When you think about it, when you land on this island, you're with a team of like military specialists or whatever the fuck they are, right? And you're part of the press for some reason. You wouldn't land and immediately start thinking, oh, time to get myself some bone armor or skin some mutants alive for their flesh, right? You wouldn't think, oh yes, I want to make a chair out of bones for myself and the chandelier out of bones for myself, or start putting body parts and skulls on top of sticks. No sane individual would do that, but the game wants you to do that. The game is tailored in a way that these things are immediately accessible to you, and you would immediately want to try them out. Because for some reason, the developers of this game are really into gore in an unhealthy way. And I'll tell you even more about it in a second. In this game, you can unlock a lot of building blueprints, which is wildly different from the way that you could do it in the first game. In the first game, for you to unlock the more messed up builds that require body parts such as effigies and stuff like that, you were required to have your character lose sanity. So the more your character like chopped off limbs, ate human flesh, stuff like that, the more fucked up things you did in the first game, the more your sanity drains. Your character starts wanting to build gory, fucked up aberrations. This game is not, it's not the case. Sanity has nothing to do with anything in this game. This game is like a gore fetish playground for the game developers and for whoever else is twisted enough to do the same that they would do. In this game, there's several locations, abandoned cabins or little tiny caves in the middle of buttfuck nowhere that you're gonna spend like an hour climbing a hill to get to, and then all you're going to get is these weird human limb contraptions such as the leg lamp or the creepy armor couch or the human limb clock. I don't quite understand what the developers were thinking when they put shit like this into the game. Like, it makes sense within the setting, right? Let's be real. Like, people are crazy in this game. They're going mad, whatever. There's weird cultists that kill themselves. There's all types of weird shit. And some people maybe might, like, I don't know, make up a blueprint of how to make a human clock. Whatever. It might happen. Maybe it might happen, right? But the reason they're in the game, let's be honest, is not because of story reasons. I'm without doubt certain that the people making this game have no idea how to convey a story. So they're not made for story reasons. They're made for the reasons that someone wanted to have them in the game, and someone wanted to build those things in the game. And someone thought that people, normal people, coming into this island and trying to immerse themselves into their surroundings are gonna at some point think, oh yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, this is something I want in my base. A leg lamp. What is the logical sense that you remove a mechanic like the sanity, right? What is the logical sense that any sane player or any sane character in this environment would actually see those things and build them? And don't tell me that they're there without the expectation of somebody building them. They wouldn't be in the game unless the game developers expected you to build those items. I think that the people making this game got a little too ahead of themselves. They focused on the wrong things to develop in this game. They overuse assets from the first game, such as sounds for some of the mutants, those stupid fucking bat noises, and the cheap jump scares that, like, I'm not gonna lie, I've played throughout the game, I don't know, within the, like, 5 episodes I made, or 6 episodes, I think I heard the bat noise about 35 times, and it was all for cheap jump scares. They overuse those assets a lot. Every cannibal, despite their unique AI and interactions, still has the same animations as they did in the first game for most of their attacks, most of their movement. Not to mention, some of them have these ridiculous, stupid, goofy, meme attacks, such as the belly flops and the acrobatic pirouette women with the claws in their hands, and the helicopter maneuvers that were honestly probably the reason I stopped playing this game more than anything. Just out of nowhere, helicopter maneuver to the face and then you insta die. They lost the vision. They developed the wrong things. They developed things like the AI of the cannibals that nobody's even going to notice unless they go out of their way to notice. They built this gigantic island that is completely devoid of story and progression and anything interesting to see. There's no interesting landmarks. Every cannibal camp is the same as another. There's barely any variation to them. They're not that interesting. Every other abandoned camp and cabin is the same shit. All you can find in the cabins and the little ice caves is stupid, gory, fetishized human limb blueprints that the sick, twisted minds of whoever built this game created and expected that we would also like them. Hunting is redundant. Animal traps are redundant. Your companions are also redundant because you don't need them for the survival aspects. You don't need them for the combat aspects. You don't need them for the tiding base aspects, because survival and building bases in this game is completely worthless and not worth your time at all. They're just not integral to the story and to the gameplay of this game whatsoever. The entire island that they have built, as beautiful and as big as it is, it's a complete waste because there's nothing to do on it. The people who spent hours of their time building or trying to find gameplay on top of the island are simply just wasting their time. They're making something out of nothing. All of the gameplay is in the caves. And the caves are not any different than they were in the first game. When you're playing through every cave, all you're going to see is the purple light of your lighter, or the grays of the flashlight, and a couple cannibals and rocks. That is every cave. Copy pasted. The vision of the story in this game is bizarre. We have cultists. We have cannibals that I don't think are ever actually explained why there's cannibals in the first game or in the second game. I might be wrong, but even if there is an explanation, I'm gonna bet that it's not a really good one. You have the weird artifacts that are now confirmed to be completely alien, by the way. There's interdimensional travel, hinting at time travel even. There's a weird material that turns a singular human being and splits them into multiple cannibals or something like that, which we've seen in some of the tapes. There's obviously all the mutated humans and experiments like that. There's demons that somehow burn when you point a cross at their face. And those demons come from an alien world that you can also access and teleport to towards the end of the game. There's weird, bizarre cutscenes that have characters just show out of nowhere and then disappear out of nowhere just as quickly. It's bizarre. I don't see the vision for this game anymore. I'm at a loss of words at how quickly they've lost control of whatever the fuck they're doing in this game. And I might be incredibly harsh. Maybe I am way too harsh for what I'm saying, but this could have been an amazing game if they focused on the right things. But if you really compare The Forest and Sons of the Forest, they're identical in almost every way. There's nothing new in Sons of the Forest that is worth buying it if you already have The Forest. There's nothing new. It's just a bigger island with more trees and more nothingness. It's actually an emptier island than the first game. It's actually emptier. Like, it's bigger, and it just has copy-pasted assets here and there, dotted about. But the first one was much more interesting. There was much more landmarks and places to explore. I don't know. I'm very jaded with this game. I think it's ridiculous how much it forces you to use all the gory aspects of it. I think it's sick. It's almost perverted in a way. Like, think of Virginia and her whole existence and how she can just start dancing around in the little swimsuit with 3 legs and 3 arms. Like, I bet that does something for the developers of this game that they're expecting would do something for the people that actually play this game, just as much as the leg lamp does, and the human clock, and the gory flesh couch. It's fucked up. It almost reminds me of that HD mod for Half-Life 2 that was very widely disliked because it just over fetishized some things that the developer of that liked and put in the actual public mod instead of just keeping it to himself. I think Sons of the Forest could have been a great survival game before anything. It could have been a great survival game if people working on this game focused on the right things and kept the weird fetishes to themselves. I don't really know why I made this video, to be fair. I think I wanted to have some sort of closure because I left off the series without an ending, and I'm sad that this is the ending. And believe me, I tried to finish this game. I have about 3 hours recorded where I tried to keep going and keep playing the game, but there was just one thing after another that just pissed me off or made me dislike the game even more and more, to the point where I could not bear to bring myself to play it anymore. And I wish I would have liked this game. I wish I could have finished it properly, and I wish I could have wanted to come back to it at some point in the future. But at the end of the day, I think, unfortunately, this game is just a meme. It's a weird, fetishized nightmare of someone's imaginations, and it is an entirely huge letdown. I will end it off here. It's a sad ending, but I think it's the only ending that I can bring myself to accept. I will say my goodbyes to the forest forever, and as I log off now, I know that I will never be returning into this game again. Perhaps, if anything, there's something to learn about this experience, something to understand that as hyped as I was, as hyped as so many people were to buy this game when it was releasing in early access, to the point where Steam was having problems processing all the purchases. Its fame, its success solely hinges on its goofiness and the stupidity that people can do with this game, and the success of the first game. It's the prime example, in my mind, of the fact that we should not judge a book by its cover. Or, in this case, I suppose, don't judge a book by its fleshy cover.